Hi, I'm Daisy Reeves, and as of September this year I will be a Level 6 student studying the BA English programme at UCD. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about the APP project and specifically what I did for my project. APP is an acronym. It stands for Academic and Professional Practice. During this module, students build upon skills learned in a similar module taken at level 4. The purpose of the project taken during APP is to give students an opportunity to get real-life work experience. The real benefit of it is the fact that it relates in some way to your degree. So what it means is that after you graduate, you've got immediately relevant experience to put on your CV. One of the things external assessors continually comment on is the transferable skills present in the courses offered at UCD. What this means is that graduates are really highly employable as a consequence of those transferable skills. So the project requires that you engage in your community in some way to help in a way that relates to English literature. If you know what you want to be when you leave university, it's a good idea to have your project link into your career aspirations. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left university. I've never really known what I want to be when I grow up. I thought it would at least be a good idea for me to do something that would enable me to utilise the skill set that I already had, but also provided the scope for some progression so that I could improve the skills that I knew needed improvement. I elected to pursue a journalistic project. I was already well connected within a broad feminist network, particularly over the internet, so I had existing contacts in that network and it felt like a good idea for me to continue that. It afforded me the opportunity to showcase my writing skills and helped me to widen the network that I already had established. Throughout my project, I worked with 2 different organisations, the first being a feminist charity called Philia. They also host the largest European feminist conference. Secondly, I worked with the United Nations to provide news articles for a charity in Burundi that offers a variety of service to locals. I already had existing contacts inside Philia and had been working as a feminist activist in the community for a long time already, many years. So I suppose it seemed like a natural progression for me to continue working in that area until I figured out exactly what I wanted to do with my life. And I suppose the rationale behind it was that no matter what I chose to do in life, working towards inclusion or inclusivity for everyone is always going to be relevant in some way. So it seemed like a useful way to apply the skills that I'd already developed and contribute to an area of discourse that was really important to me. To begin with, I found it quite exposing writing for the public. I hadn't realised quite how accessible I was going to be, even really early on. And everybody has a different opinion on things, especially when it comes to activism, particularly when it comes to feminism. So I always knew that there were going to be a lot of divergent opinions. I don't know how prepared I was for those opinions being quite so hostile, but and the thing is, to begin with, there's always that concern that the reason that you're receiving that hostility is because you're just not good enough and your skill level isn't quite there yet. But the more you do and the more interaction you have with your audience, you quickly find yourself able to distinguish between useful feedback and white noise. At the same time, it was really exciting when my pieces started to be shared by MPs, famous scientists, feminist journalists, and I felt that I was really contributing something useful to an existing discourse. And I started to develop that sense that maybe the skills that I had were actually valuable after all. With the UN, everything was a bit more tightly run. Philia is a grassroots feminist network, so it's ordinary women pulling together to work at different levels, and it's a reflection of that fact, I think. And I really enjoy working that way because it's a lot more relaxed. The UN brought something different to the project that I think was invaluable in its own way. There was a lot of regimented scheduling involved. I had to submit a proposal draft, and then when that was approved, I would submit my first draft, and then I had to continually moderate myself throughout the process as well. So I would each week upload my own progress so that I could stay on track, meeting deadlines, producing pieces that met the criteria for the top stories of the week. And when that happened, they would be distributed in different places. Wouldn't usually happen. A couple of times my pieces were selected for going either on the front page of the website or on the front page of the print publication in Burundi. So that was a nice experience because at Philia, because of the way the organisation is run, and it should be this way, everybody's on the same footing, everybody's equal, nobody's better than anybody else. Everybody's celebrated equally. Whereas working with the UN, there was that scope for recognition that something that I had done personally was good enough to be elevated that little bit. So it was a different experience, which is why I think if you intend on doing a journalistic project like I did, it's probably a good idea to get as much experience of different styles and different organisations as possible. Particularly as well because the thing I found most challenging to begin with was learning how to write to a house style. What that means is, if you think about the way that you would approach writing something, if you've never had an experience working for anyone else in a writing position, you're probably going to write with your own voice, using your own words. I don't really know how else to explain it. But if somebody gives you a brief that they want you to write to, there are several ways you could do that. The way that they want you to do it, it takes time to work that out. And I think the more experience you have of doing that, the more you get quicker at being able to recognise exactly what's asked of you early on. So then it requires fewer rounds of edits. You're not going to feel like you're getting everything really wrong because you've already had plenty of experience of writing to different house styles. My project did not in any way end up relating to the choice that I made as far as my career is concerned, mostly because I didn't make the decision, and I still haven't made the decision completely about what I'm going to do when I leave university. I do know that the transferable skills that I've learned throughout this project will be valuable to me whatever I choose to do. As a consequence of undertaking this project, I have developed my foreign language skills, I have developed my professional communication skills, I've taken continued professional development courses with a focus on things like assertiveness and communication in the workplace, because a lot of the work that I did with Philia particularly required me to liaise with foreign correspondents. Well, there were a couple of issues there because my language skills were not quite up to scratch, so I made the decision to improve those. It may be relevant in my career later down the line, it may not, but I still have those skills. Overall, I think the module provides students with the opportunity to head out into the world and get some real life experience of the areas they want to work in. It was going to be important for me to find out what I didn't want to do just as much as finding out what I did want to do. For instance, when I was working for the UN, one of the requirements was that we contribute 2 children's stories for a publication that was issued in Burundi at the schools adjacent to the charity. So we had to publish children's stories for that purpose, and as soon as I'd written the first story, I realised that I did not want to write children's stories. So I think learning what you want to do, it's really important to find out what you don't want to do as well. And this project definitely gave me the opportunity to figure out what I don't want to do and push me closer towards figuring out where I do want to be.